This is the AB4WS radio show. Every week, bringing you the exciting amateur radio news and information happening in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana areas.
The AB4WS radio show can be found on the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast application. And now also available on the AB4WS radio show YouTube channel. 2025 Field Day results are in and are posted in the December 2025 QST magazine. Nearly 32,000 participants made the 1.2 million contact during the amateur radio's most popular on-air event. Number of entries increased by 54 over last year, and participants rose by 31,909 this year. K4CO, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club, and KY6ET, the Amateur Radio Emergency Team of Northern Kentucky, had a joint field day and ended up with 902 points with 46 QSOs. The Bullet Amateur Radio Society, KY4KY, had 5,817 points with 992 QSOs. W4CN, the Amateur Radio Transmitting Society of Louisville, Kentucky, had 4,047 points with 1,213 QSOs. K4KJQ, the Bluegrass Amateur Radio Society, had 2,048 points and 129 QSOs. AJ4A, Central Kentucky Amateur Radio Club, 12,400 points with 3,303 QSOs. KY4BG, the Kentucky Colonels Amateur Radio Club, 3,130 points with 572 QSOs. N4LCA, the Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association, had 2,494 points with 452 QSOs. KB9GYO, the Laufrey Valley Amateur Radio Club, had a score of 644 points with 63 QSOs. W9SU, the Indy United Amateur Radio Club, had 20,272 points and 4,726 QSOs. W8BI, the Dayton Amateur Radio Association, had 560 points with 39 QSOs. K8BSR, the Black Swamp Amateur Radio Club, had 8,010 points and 2,453 QSOs. K8SCH, the Okayan Amateur Radio Society, had 7,533 points with 1,736 QSOs. Just to name a few of the results in the tri-state area. For the complete list, go to ARRL.org/field-day. Time to start planning for that 2026 ARRL Summer Field Day, which will be on June 27th and 28th, 2026. The Honor Run 2025 Half Marathon in Florence, Kentucky was another great success. The half marathon had 305 runners, with Dixon Ryan of Ellesmere, Kentucky, being first-place male runner, and Raquel Torres of Cincinnati taking first-place female. 10K had 220 participants, and Grayson Parker of Burlington, Kentucky, was first for the men, and Hannah Beach of Florence, Kentucky, was first place for the women. 5K race had 440 participants, with Ryan Richards of Burlington was first-place male, and Aubrey Bushman of Union, Kentucky, was the first female. There were no injuries reported or other issues at this event, in some part due to the 32 amateur radio volunteers from the Amateur Radio Emergency Team of Northern Kentucky, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club, Ohio Aries, and Indiana Races, and others who assisted in race communications and logistics, and along with the Florence Police, Fire, and EMS officials who kept everyone safe and organized. Another great event raising money for Honor Flight Tri-State, which sends local veterans to visit their memorials in Washington, D.C. Sad news to report that Lee Bobolt, KA8MCL, 97 years old, from Cincinnati, Ohio, is a silent key. Lee was born in Alpena, Michigan, and was a retired professional engineer. A proud graduate of the University of Michigan in 1951 with a degree in electrical engineering. After college, Lee served in the United States Air Force for 4 years active duty and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force. In October 1953, when the Korean War ended, he was returned to reserve duty status and was honorably discharged as a first lieutenant in 1961. Lee moved to Cincinnati in 1953, working for R.K. LeBond before retiring in 1987 and going to work for his friend Glenn Svan until 1993. Lee was an avid amateur radio operator, woodworker, boat builder, and winemaker, and also known to play the piano, playing those 1940s hits. I can still hear Lee signing off saying, 73, this is KA8MCL. Go Blue! And I don't think he was referring to Kentucky Blue. Thoughts and prayers to Lee's many family and friends. The Ohio 2025 Simulated Emergency Test, known as SET, was a great success, and thanks to all the counties who sent messages via voice, FLDigi, and WinLink. So many messages were received that a final count of them have not yet been completed, but it was an impressive event to say the least. Emergency coordinators are reminded to write an after-action report as well as submit their annual SET forms to the Ohio DEC. American Radio Relay League is seeking authors to contribute articles to QST Magazine. They always encourage submissions of general interest or technical manuscripts. However, the upcoming issues, they're looking for specifically articles about the ARRL Field Day and emergency communications experiences. So if you have a field day or MCOM story, think about submitting an article to the ARRL for the QST Magazine. For more information, go to ARRL.org. Get ready. An exercise is coming soon, and you can get a head start on it by getting your radios programmed to be able to communicate on XLX 721. D-Star programmed that radio up to connect to DCS 721 Alpha. For a DMR, program Brandmeister Talk Group 3121232. And for C4FM Fusion, program Fusion YSF 51149. The exercise will be on November 20th. And to think about is the weather, since winter is coming and right out your window. Don't be scared, be prepared, and program and test those radios out with that cross-mode utility capability through the cross-mode reflector system of XLX 721. Always available to you every day. November 15th through the 17th is the ARRL November Sweepstakes, a great way to get your work to all states in a weekend. November 17th, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be meeting at 7 p.m. at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky, where election night will take place. Nominations were closed at the October meeting with no additional nominations, so the slate of officers will be President Todd Sayers, KY4TLS, Vice President Larry Silverman, WB2GYS, Secretary Ron Milligan, KY4ROD, Treasurer Tim Lawrence, W4TWL, and Director Greg Howard, KQ4RIE. After the business, we will discuss Echolink, what it is and how to get started with it, and what the uses of Echolink are. Come on out and learn all about Echolink. On Tuesday, November 20th at 6:30 p.m., the Milford Amateur Radio Club will hold their annual holiday dinner get-together at the Eastgate Golden Corral, 4394 Glen Estee, Williamsville Road. On November 22nd from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the Ohio Aries Conference at the OSU COTC Warner Library Building, 219 University Drive in Newark, Ohio. Registration is necessary. For more information, go to aries.unioncountyohio.us. Want to learn more about WinLink? Well, come on out to the Amateur Radio Emergency Team of Northern Kentucky KY6ET meeting on November 24th at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky, where at 7 p.m. the training team will continue their presentation on WinLink, this time talking about and demonstrating the use of WinLink over HF, VHF, and using the internet-connected RMS gateways. They'll be setting up both HF and VHF antennas outdoors and have radios indoors sending and receiving messages to and from attendees. They intend to incorporate and use some of the other member-carried HT to communicate through local VHF digipeater, along with a lot of hands-on questions and answers. The business meeting will start at 5:30 for those interested in the business meeting, and the training team will start their training at 7 p.m. Come on out and learn all about WinLink. Elections for the Okayan Amateur Radio Society will be held at the meeting on December 2nd at 7:30 p.m. at the usual meeting place of the Arlington Heights Town Hall, 601 Elliott Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio. Nominations are still open for you to nominate your favorite candidate. So far, current officers up for re-election are President Ryan, AC8UJ, Vice President Chessie, KD800B, Secretary Steve, N8PUP, Treasurer Kevin, K8ZOZ, and Director on a 3-year term, Bruce, N8BV. To nominate someone, reach out to one of those members of the nominating committee: Drew, K8JTL, Steve, K8TEY, or Andy, K3CAQ. This will be their holiday party as well. December 15th is the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club annual Christmas dinner at 7 p.m. at the Golden Corral, 4770 Houston Road in Florence, Kentucky. The American Radio Relay League wants everyone to know that just because the government shut down and the FCC is not issuing licenses, updating licenses, or issuing FRN numbers, but you can still take any amateur radio exam. Volunteer examiners will still give exams and issue certificates of successful completion to you, and the ARRL will have this successful exam information in queue to send to the FCC as soon as they open the doors. If you do not have an FRN, and since the FCC cannot issue it, the VEs have been instructed on how to allow you to take an exam, and you can get your successful completion so that when the FCC opens their doors again, you will get your FRN and work towards the FCC issuing your license. For more information, go to ARRL.org.
Repeater news.
Are you looking for the most up-to-date list of repeaters in the greater Cincinnati area? Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I've listed repeaters that are active in the area, separated by tabs for each band or mode, so you can easily look for just DMR repeaters or 2-meter analog repeaters and so on. The list includes 2 meters, 220, 440, 6 meters, D-Star, DMR, C4FM, P25, and some other classifications. Every time I update the file, I include the date and the file name so that you know you have the latest update. To download the file, go to the AB4WS Radio Show Facebook page and go to the file section and download the file. If you're not on Facebook, email me at ab4ws.radio@gmail.com and I can email you the latest file. If you see any errors, problems, additions, or corrections, email that information to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Hamfest.
On December 6th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the Fulton County Winter Hamfest at the Delta American Legion Post 373 at 5939 Ohio State Route 109 and County Road F in Delta, Ohio. For more information, go to k8bxq.org.
Are you looking to upgrade your license? Do you have someone else that's interested in the hobby? Here are some upcoming exam opportunities.
The Milford Amateur Radio Club holds amateur radio testing on the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has exams frequently. For their exam schedule, email exams.w8bi@gmail.com. On November 17th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/NKY-VE. On December 11th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing k8weh@k8weh@awrl.net or on the k8ge.net website. On December 13th, the Scott County Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at the Georgetown Police Department in Georgetown, Kentucky. Special thanks to this week's content contributors: WB8VNH, KY4GW, WB8YYS, KD8ZLD, K9HIO, N8LAR, K4NKU.
If you have something you think other amateur radio operators in the area would be interested in, send the information or your recorded audio file attached in an email to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Covering your amateur radio news and information in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana tri-state area, this is Jack Prindle, AB4WS in Big Bone, Kentucky.